All right. Welcome back. And so we're going to go ahead and get started as promised. What we've been talking about, I guess, in this particular series is um, how to identify your target audience. And so part of the thing that we're going to be covering, or I guess, the specifics that we're going to be covering. And as I told you, kind of in the intro video, what we were going to get into is the intro kind of broke down the five things. And so now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start going into each one of them and really kind of like breaking it down. And so hopefully I can make this. I'm going to try to be very concise, so there and kind of really give you the meat, so therefore you can now start building, kind of putting the building blocks into place. So the first thing, like I said, we're gonna do is how to identify your target audience. First thing we're gonna start with is define the problem. Um, and when we start talking about defining the problem, um, there is um, about seven things that you want to make sure that you're focusing on or that you're addressing. Um, and that is going to be based on the following questions in one sentence. Tell me what your problem or your brand addresses, which we talked about that kind of in that intro, is that tell me kind of what the problem is. What are you trying to address? And in the analogy that I used, I said that the problem that, and I created a problem, which I didn't create a problem, but the problem actually that we gave as our example was, clean drinking water. That in developing countries that they don't have clean drinking water. And you know what? And to be really frank, I mean, we've heard just as recent, I guess, in the last 10 years, that even in Flint, Michigan, that they didn't have clean drinking water. So this is not necessarily a crisis that a lot of times, we think about that's overseas. Sometimes it can be in our very own backyard. So um, you start off with what, we're going to define what the problem is. We're going to get very, very specific, and we're going to begin to build. Okay. So number one is, again, tell me one sentence what the problem is. And then number two is, what drives you crazy when you see this happening. And so when we start thinking about, like, for example, clean drinking water, man, I mean, we see the advertisements on TV. If you've been in a third world country, you've actually seen, like how malnutrition and how swollen, these kids' stomachs is. And we've heard about the sicknesses, and we've heard about the diseases, and we've heard about all these different things. And so for me, I'll tell you, like, it just like hurts me to know that, we go and take a shower, and we could take a 20-minute shower or run, help 10, 15 gallons of water, just to take a bath. And here it is, you have, people, children that's in these countries that don't have that. So that's something that literally, and it's almost like, I don't want to say necessarily we take it for granted, but we're just not aware. And so that drives me crazy, and that's kind of what got me very passionate about, this whole subject. Um, so let's move to the next question that you want to ask yourself. Is the problem physical, mental, emotional, environmental, or financial? And then you talk about the why for each. When we start talking about, in my case, or the example that we're using, clean drinking water, it's both physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's environmental, it's all of those things. And so it's mental, because think about the impact of how a mother feels when she sees her kids suffering. Think about that. Think about the physical aspect of how the child feels or how the mother feels, and they cannot, have clean drinking water. Think about the emotional aspects, when that kid, dies, or has, a disease. It's a very physical, mental, emotional thing. And then the environmental, it's like, why is it that, like, the environment, where there's these droughts and things where they can't go and drill for water? Is it something that's in the environment? They talk about climate change. Is climate change directly related to, droughts and why people don't have access, to clean drinking water? you know then we go to the next question. We ask ourselves, is the problem painful, annoying, or bothersome? It's a very painful thing. Without a doubt, it's very painful to see the effects that this particular you know crises can cause. you know it's not necessarily annoying or bothersome, but it's painful. And so therefore, that's now why we want to kind of get in there, and as we're putting together the problem, these are all the things that you want to start, all these questions you want to answer. Because like I told you in the last video, this is actually going to help you to build your content. Because see, now you'll be able to speak directly to your audience. Okay, let's go to the next question. What makes you want to take over and do it right, or show the right way? Well, for me, it's just simply my passion about it, and how this thing affects me, having traveled abroad and seen it. So it's just a passion of mine. And a lot of times it's great to do what you're passionate at. Should I get additional education about like filtration and how to clean the water, how to drill for the water? Yeah, I can definitely do those things. But then I can also hire a team, put together a team of experts that now I have the vision, or I have the passion, but then they have the technical ability. And that's something that is quite possible to do. You don't have to like have all the right answers, but you can have the vision, and then put a team together. Okay. um, the next question is, who else is solving the problem like you? People you admire and would like to copy. I mean, there's a lot of different organizations, whether they're just be private, whether it be public, whether it be nonprofit organizations, that are actually doing this. And some are doing it, on different scales. And some organizations take different approaches. Some drill wells, some do filtration, some do rain capture. So there's a lot of different techniques that a lot of different organizations are doing. What I would sit down and try to figure out is that, how do I do it the best effective, and from a cost perspective, what works? Maybe I could do it from a cost perspective, right? I can create maybe a specific filtration device, or I can find a device that I can install in a store, and then I create like a whole filtration system within a store. Excuse me, a whole filtration system that people can walk to the store, to get their water. So, I had to put my own spin on it. Okay. Um, and then finally, the last question is here: if I could switch places, who would it be? I think that the only person probably that I really truly admire is a guy that I forget his name, but he started Charity Water. Like, I really like his story and how he got started. And it was like he just went and was a photographer. And first he was a club promoter, then he became a photographer. And then what he did was he basically kind of created Charity Water. Charity Water was birthed from his experience of going overseas. um, and so that's kind of, if I were to who I really say that I admire, it was just a really like a simple beginning. And so it doesn't really take a lot, right? And so when you're putting together your target audience, like I said, the main thing you want to make sure you're doing first is that you got to we got to address the problem. And once you get that problem identified and you start kind of like answering all these your questions, from there it's going to get easier and easier. When you have these here building blocks, it's going to get easier and easier for you now to create a viable business, right? And then also, not only that, but it'll be easier for you to speak to your audience. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and end this here on this here note, and you'll be able to watch the next video lesson. Thank you.